everyone, and welcome to another Life Protocol video. So I've been seeing a lot of questions online about which type is compatible with which type, what are the types that are supposed to be more compatible, and I've been doing my own research and I came to the conclusion that I don't think MBTI types or even people in general are meant to be compatible. And these two videos, this is going to be part one of a series of two videos explaining why I think MBTI types are not meant to be compatible. Doesn't mean that they cannot get along, of course, that people can get along, but they were not meant to be compatible. So this is a theory that I was working on and I want to put it out there to see what you guys think. I'm looking for feedback to see if it makes sense or if I even missed something, or you know what, let's build this theory together, or completely scratch it if it doesn't make sense. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and I'll see you on the next one.
Are MBTI types compatible? There's no doubt in my mind that the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, MBTI, is a helpful tool for understanding personality differences and similarities between individuals, but what about compatibility? In this video, we are going to explore the idea of MBTI type compatibility, and why there's a very good case to be made about if types are even capable of being compatible at all. Every single type seems to have something about them that makes them excel at a particular skill or field. Of course, there's much more subtlety to a person than I could ever mention in a short video like this: their gender, genetics, nurture, life experience, culture, all these factors influence who someone really is. It would take months to go through every nuance of a single person, considering all possibilities and variables that could influence the way people make their decisions. But we cannot ignore the evidence that each type seems to have an underlying programming behind them, at least in a very broad sense. The incompatibility of the axis. This so-called programming is different for each axis. No one is able to do it all. For example, an INFP with FI dominant and TE inferior would struggle or have tremendous difficulty detaching themselves from feelings and emotions. It would be an enormous effort for INFPs to act like an ENTJ or ESTJ. These two particular types, ENTJ and ESTJ, do their best work when they fully detach themselves from feelings or emotions. This is known as an axis. ENTJs and ESTJs have TE dominant and FI inferior, while INFPs and ISFPs have FI dominant and TE inferior. In other words, what one is good at, the other is bad at. The same happens with every axis: FETI, NISE, SINE, FITE. This is not to say that types are not able to do what they are supposedly weak at. People can certainly use their inferior function, but the energy requirements to do something their brain is wired to repress is immense. It requires massive amounts of time and training. Think about it: if it takes little to no effort to use the dominant function, what happens when you try to go against it? It would certainly be very draining. The pull of the dominant function is so strong that in contrast causes the opposite of it to be very weak and distorted. It's like having a train on one side of a rope, and a bicycle on the other side of it. This creates a massive imbalance in a person, and that is exactly the reason why people are so good at using their dominant function, and so bad at using their repressed one. From that imbalance, we get incompatibility between people. When the strong pull of FI of an INFP, for example, encounters the strong pull of TE of an ENTJ, there's going to be a clash of forces. Both trying to push through, with tremendous force. But strangely enough, that is the way it has to be. Imagine, for example, if TE has nothing to counter it. In a very broad sense, we would all be working ourselves to the bone, never really paying attention to our own feelings or the feelings of others. While if we were all FI dominant, again in a very broad sense, we would be so caught up in our own feelings and our internal worlds, and we wouldn't get much done. NI would be thinking about the future, neglecting the present and the sensory experiences that make life much more enjoyable. SE would indulge in the immediate pleasures of the present, never planning for the future, and so on. Every single function needs a balancing act, or things will go astray. Human beings pride themselves on the ability to be able to reason. It's true, we are smart, but are we smart enough? No, we are not. Our brain can only handle one dominant function. Or the brain isn't developed enough to increase the intensity of the rest of the functions, and bring them all to the same level. For now we thrive, or should I say, our society thrives because we balance each other out. But this balance is not easy. It is violent collision after violent collision of super-intensified dominant functions crashing with each other. But don't worry, we are not doomed to eternal struggle. We are in the process of evolution, Or do you think we are at the final stage of what being a human is? No, we are the caveman to the human being of the future. And we can start to take steps into being that more evolved person. The answer lies within your functions. Working to develop your inferior function, and tone down your dominant one, is the path to a more unified and understanding world. Now you ask, what about the other functions, the second and third? What role do they play? Don't they make us more balanced human beings? Yes, they do, but they work mostly to provide direction to the dominant one. For example, TI plus NE, or INTP, is logical consistency within ideas and abstract concepts. While TI plus SE, or ISTP, is logical consistency towards actionable outcomes, more immediate and practical. Logical consistency is the main denominator. The same can be said about all other types. NE plus TI, or ENTP, is the exploration of ideas with a preference for novelty, in a more logical sense, colder and more detached. NE plus FI, or ENFP, is the exploration of ideas with a preference for novelty, through the lens of feelings and emotions, more connected to people. Again, the main denominator is the exploration of ideas with a preference for novelty. The second function determines the inclination of a person. The third function is complicated. In a way it does provide direction to a lesser extent, but normally is misused, becoming more of a source of struggle or trepidation. But more on that in other videos. The third function is far too complex, and it deserves its singular and dedicated series of videos, which I'm planning on doing in the future. What about two types that share the same axis? Don't they share the same strengths and weaknesses? Yes, they do. And in this case what prevents their compatibility is their direction, like we've seen before, their secondary and tertiary functions. I'll use INTJs and INFJs as an example. INTJs have TE and FI as their secondary and tertiary functions. TE means they are goal-oriented, rational, leaning towards implementation of a concept or idea, focused on the implementation first and accuracy second. INTJ's tertiary FI puts their emphasis on their own feelings, as opposed to the feelings of other people. While INFJs go in a totally different direction, INFJs have FE plus TI. FE means they are more focused on other people's feelings, and may even neglect their own. And TI is logical, which is a much slower, yet a more accurate process than TE, because the focus is on the accuracy, not implementation. And this is true for every type. So in the end, we cannot avoid the realization that people are not compatible when they share the same dominant and inferior function. To be continued. In part 2 we are going to focus on the compatibility between introverted and extroverted versions of the same type, and two people of the same exact type. See you there.
If you liked the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. That will allow us to keep making more videos like this. For more related content, please click on one of the suggested videos. Thank you for watching.